One meeting has the ability to change everything for the better. In your business, even your life. Your challenge is to get past the Dobermans and get that meeting. And you're about to learn how from the father of contact marketing. It's a very persuasive episode 482 of the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of marketing malarkey. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. And that's exactly why this podcast exists. But if it's not enough, you can grab a copy of my popular marketing book, The Boomerang Effect, as well, that I wrote exactly with you in mind over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Big episode today. Wall Street Journal cartoonist and the father of contact marketing, Stu Heinecke, joins us to explain how you can get a meeting with absolutely anyone. And trust me, he knows how. His now wife was a penthouse pet when he made contact with her for the very first time. He has other more serious campaigns to share as well. Motivated listener shares ideas they've picked up from this show that have led to a 40% increase in revenues. So, of course, they win big in this week's Monster Prize draw. And I'll let you in on next week's guest. As per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Now, before we go and meet the father of contact marketing, Stu Heinecke, you may have noticed that I've been off the air for a few weeks. And you may have remembered, if you are a long-time listener, that in the last episode, I mentioned that I was off to the UK to see my beautiful daughter and to have a bit of a break, and that I was going to organise a whole lot of interviews while I was over there. Well, I did go to the UK. I did visit my beautiful daughter, but I had a pretty ordinary time, and I came back early. This is not going to paint a great picture of me, the worldly global traveller. I just didn't enjoy London, and I'm sorry to all my London listeners, all my UK fans. If you're out there, I know there's some of you. It was just a big city. I just wasn't ready for such a big city. I live in a little city in Australia, and it just freaked me out. Added to that, so I kind of I just was schlepping around, not enjoying myself. I also have sciatica, which is a pain in the back, literally, and that was making my time there worse. Subsequently found I have Ross River fever, which amplifies the sciatica. So I was like wondering, I'm walking like 20, 25 kilometres a day around London, wondering, why am I in so much pain? Why am I so miserable? Added to that, I got mugged in Paris. I know. Awesome trip. Oh, I can laugh about it now. Had my wallet taken, my money, my passport, a few other things. Jeez, that created some pain in itself. So I'm like, you know what? I'm coming home early. I cancelled the 6 interviews that I had set up. I will do them at some point in the coming weeks because they were with some pretty cool businesses. But there you go. That's an honest kind of overview of what's been happening in my life. And I've got to say, thanks to all 2 of you who inquired about my well-being. In fact, one listener emailed me and said, are you dead? It's like, how am I going to respond to that if I am? But there were 2 of you who did inquire, one through email, one through Twitter, which kind of, it was a bit of a hit to the ego. I've got to say, it's like maybe 2,000. But, here's the thing. With podcasting, like I listen to a lot of podcasts. I never reach out to the podcasters and say they're doing a good job and stuff. So, it's like, you get what you pay for, right? But, it's an interesting thing about podcasting is that we are listening while we're in the car or, jogging or at the gym or in bed, and we're just not in a position to respond. So I guess some of you have probably been wondering, where the hell's Timbo? Here I am. And I've been digging deep to find the motivation to get back on the bike. I did an interview last week. Got to tell you, won't tell you who it was, to wind the small business, big marketing machine up again. And it was a really, really crook interview. I couldn't actually run with it, which I was a bit disappointed because I was ready to come out punching. Anyway, enough. I found the motivation. I'm back. I'm excited, and I've got a rip interview for you right now. So let's go and find out who and what that's about. Righto. Now, Stu Heinecke is a cartoonist from the Wall Street Journal, and a bloody good one at that. But he's also a very clever marketing guy. In fact, Russ Klein, who is the CEO of the American Marketing Association, has labelled Stu the father of contact marketing. And that's what we're talking about today. You see, Stu is the author of 2 books, the most recent titled Get the Meeting, which are laser focused on ensuring you get past the gatekeepers, I call them Dobermans, and you get that meeting with that person that may well change your life. Because you know that meeting has the potential, that one meeting has the potential to change everything in your business or personal life. I'm sure you've already experienced meetings like that and you're like, how do I get more of them? How do I get to that person that is a key decision maker around something that I would love to get for my business or my personal life? So I suggest you grab a pen and some paper, because this one is just full of beautiful, beautiful contact marketing lessons. Stu's going to share how to get a 100% response rate using personalised campaigns. He's going to give you a step-by-step approach to creating contact marketing campaigns. He's created ones that have return on investment in the millions of percent. And there's so much more. I started off by asking Stu why a Wall Street Journal cartoonist has become an expert in helping business owners get the meeting of a lifetime.
Well, that's a great question. I have a crazy background. I am a cartoonist, and my cartoons appear in the Wall Street Journal. But I'm also a marketer. In fact, I'm a Hall of Fame nominated marketer twice. And my education is in marketing. Cartooning has always been something that I've done as a passion. But actually, I've mixed the two throughout my career. And if you could see me, you'd see that I have white hair, and my career has lasted a long time. So I've been using them for.
I have seen you,
That's
and
true.
you look much more a cartoonist than you do a Hall of Fame marketer. But hey, take both. So what cartoons out of interest? Because your cartoons, having had a look at them, and it's podcasting not being a visual medium, but they're those classic cartoons. I mean, it's a very famous style that seems to have been around for decades.
Well, it has, because I have, but yeah, it's been out there for quite a while. And I've got to say that cartoons, I want to say 2 things. One, we're going to talk about getting meetings with people, and I don't mean to say that you need to do cartoon or use cartoons and be a cartoonist to do it. But I've found that throughout my career, being a cartoonist and using my cartoons has been an incredible secret weapon, really, to get through to just about anybody.
No doubt. In fact, I just looked at your Twitter before going on air, and I noticed you reached out to Gary Vaynerchuk, the legendary,
I'm in the process of, yeah.
You're in the process of using a really big cartoon. So we'll come to that. But what we do know, Stu, actually, sorry, you wanted to say 2 things. What was the second?
No, that was it. Well, basically, I'm saying that cartoons have been an incredible secret weapon for getting in touch with people that I should never be able to reach. Really, I should never be able to do this, but it's perfect that I get to do it. And then I also just want to say that we're going to be talking about contact marketing, just the use of micro-focused campaigns to get a hold of people that are of great importance to us. So those campaigns can take all kinds of forms, and they don't necessarily require cartoons.
Phew. So we don't have to be a legendary cartoonist in order to nail this, in order to get the meeting. Now, Stu, what we do know for sure is one meeting has the ability to change everything, both in our business life, in our personal life. What's the one meeting that changed everything for you?
Oh my God. I've had so many. Well, if I think back on my life, and I think if you do, and if all of us in the audience do as well, of all of the things that have been advancements in our lives and in our careers, they've all happened because we connected with someone. And of course, then you have to, in order to connect with people, you have to get meetings. But if you're asking about my best or most momentous meeting, it's probably how I met my wife. My wife is a Penthouse cover model, and I saw her in the magazine, and I said, "Oh my God!" Well, I was working on a film project. It just sort of all happened to coincide. So I saw the picture, and I said, "Oh my God! If I was going on this fantasy, that's what I was going to build. I was looking into making a film based on my old high school fantasy of going to one of those countries and finding one of those beautiful blonde women and bringing them home." And so I saw this picture and said, "Oh my God!" Well, I was about to go there to get footage of the place and the people and so forth. And here was this picture of this woman that I've just said to myself, if I was going on the fantasy for real, this is the woman I would bring home. Oh my God, who is she? And so I connected and got the meeting.
Hang on.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I was just picking myself up off the floor. You are quite serious. Your wife, a Danish model, was a Penthouse cover girl.
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
True. Okay, awesome. This is fantastic. For those millennials listening, Penthouse was a soft porn magazine back in the day that our dads kept in the top shelf of their ensuite. So what did you do? How did you get the meeting with who's your now wife?
Well, I wasn't thinking of it in terms of contact marketing at the time. I just wanted to interview her, but really interviews, well, you've probably noticed this, that...
Is interview code for something? You just wanted to interview her?
No. I wanted to interview her. I wanted to meet her, and I know what you're saying, but no, I just wanted to interview her, and I wanted to interview her on camera for the film, and whatever happened afterward or as a result was just extra. But here's the thing I wanted to say is that, I talk about sending cartoons around, and we'll talk about other things that people have done to get meetings. But one of the things that you can do to get meetings is invite people on your podcast and interview them. And I'm sure you've noticed that you've made some incredible connections because of your podcast.
That is a fantastic point. There's a whole lot of reasons to do podcast or to create helpful content, whether it be a YouTube channel or a blog or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But I tell you what, you're my 482nd guest.
Wow.
And podcasting has it's created a huge Rolodex for me, virtual Rolodex. My network is out of control, and the people that I can call on now and the meetings that I can get.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. It's extraordinary. And you know as well, you've got your own podcast.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's right. And I also, I use a lot of different methods for reaching out and breaking through to people, but podcast and just the offer of media exposure is an incredible contact device. I don't know if, it doesn't have to be a contact device. You don't have to be trying to sell them something or that you have a second step in the relationship all planned out. But certainly, it is a great way to connect with very important, very busy people. And so it qualifies as one mode of contact marketing.
We're chatting with Stu Heinecke. He's married to a Penthouse cover girl. That's a new bit of news that I got before. I didn't get that in the research. He's also the author of Get the Meeting. Stu, why do you think it's so hard to get to the right person?
Well, for one thing, people are busy. People like to say, well, nowadays people are busy. Well, and I don't know that it changed much. People are busy. In fact, particularly important people. And, if you're busy, then there's not much bandwidth left over for new people and new things. And so if you're someone who is calling out of the blue, that's an expression we use here. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you're just calling out of the blue, they don't know who you are. They don't know why you're calling. They don't know why they should take the time to talk with you. For all they know, it could be an utter waste of time. And so that's probably why. If you're reaching out to the kind of person who we like to target in contact marketing, which is someone who has the ability to change the scale of your business or your career, maybe even overnight, if they became dream clients or dream partners, these people are busy and they've got a lot going on. So So just by definition, they're not going to have a lot of extra time to talk to people they don't know.
Yeah, I get that. And then it sort of extends down to the Dobermans, as I call them, those people, the gatekeepers, I think you call them. Funnily enough, you have a Doberman as a pet.
I practice with her.
But, it's like it extends down into the people below them. I had a guest on previously, Steve Sims. He has a concierge business in California, in Hollywood, actually, and one of his clients is Elton John. And he talked about, it was the whole interview with Steve was about how did he get a client like Elton John. And one of the things he talked about was the baby Dobermans that sit between you and Elton. And in Elton's case, there are many. So each step of the way, you had to figure out what was it that baby Doberman needed. Was it a pat on the head? Was it a bunch of flowers? Was it recognition? And give them that in order to get through to the next one. So,
you call them Dobermans, but I would call them vice presidents of access or talent scouts. I'm really a fan of executive assistants. I'm relieved when I find one. When I encounter one, because if you're talking to the executive assistant to the chief executive officer, the CEO, then you're talking to someone who, think about it. They don't have a C-level title, but they are essentially on even footing with the rest of the C-suite, essentially, because they report directly to the CEO, just like the rest of the C-suite does. And
yes,
they work very closely with the CEO. And the thing is that they've got lots of functions, but one of those that we're aware of is that they certainly do. They weed out the people that aren't supposed to have or shouldn't be getting any of their executives' time. But they are also, and this is sort of the unrecognized part of what they do, they're also there to recognize and spot and almost curate things that the CEO never would have found out unless the executive assistant carefully handled the call and understood what the value was and made some very quick decisions about whether the person calling should or should not be in contact with the CEO. So, I love it when I reach executive assistants first, because they're usually facilitators.
Well, there's a great lesson there already, in terms of mindset. We pick up that phone sometimes or send that email with a negative mindset going, this is going to go to the EA, this is going to go to the person we really want to get to, secretary, and, really I'm banging my head against a wall. What you're saying is, no, have love for them. Be grateful that they're there. And that may change the whole energy of the situation anyway.
Yeah.
So your solution to getting to the right person, Stu, is something you call, and you've been labelled, the father of contact marketing. What is contact marketing?
Well, so contact marketing is it's a fusion of marketing and selling, which already is good news, because usually those things are siloed and separate and working at in different directions. But it's a fusion of marketing and selling, in which micro-focused campaigns are used to create contact with high value accounts and prospects.
Micro-focused campaigns.
Yeah.
Well, I think the best thing to do, because your book, which I absolutely love, is full of examples. And I think you're a bit of a storyteller. You discovered contact marketing early in your career with a $100 investment that got you a 100% response rate from executive assistants and brought in millions of dollars in business. So why don't you paint a picture of what that campaign looked like so we can understand the premise of contact marketing? Yeah,
that's a great one to talk about too, because I run a small business and I started my small business using a contact marketing campaign. In fact, that one that you just asked about. And I think that's great for your audience, because we all need to, as you say, we need to punch above our weight class. And this is a great way to do it. And so in that instance, I really had just finished college. I was a cartoonist at the time. I was being published in some of the local. Los Angeles is a big market, but they're local to Los Angeles. So I was being published in those papers, and my degree was in marketing, and I was anxious to go out. The thing I really wanted to do was work with the big magazine publishers at the time in the U.S. And so And the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to combine marketing and cartooning. So I was going to use personalization and cartoons and use them in direct marketing in ways that I hadn't seen before. And so I had two very quick assignments that I got from magazines. I don't know if you'll know these magazines. I don't know whether all the U.S. magazines, I don't know if any U.S. magazines are on, or if they're at newsstands anymore. But Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit magazines, do those?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we know Rolling Stone for sure, the music magazine. Bon Appetit, I'm assuming some kind of
cooking.
is the food version of Rolling Stone.
So I got two assignments to create test campaigns. These were to acquire subscribers for the to service the rate base of the magazines. So these two test campaigns went out against their controls. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'll just explain that control is. In statistics, you always test against a control group, and in direct marketing, you test against the most effective thing the marketers ever put out in the mail. And so in fact, if you tie their control, you've just tied the record for. You're
always trying to beat the control.
Yeah, always trying to beat the control. And so this one, both of these beat the control. That's a crazy and wonderful outcome. So I immediately thought, okay, great. The thing I need to do now, because I want to spread this to the rest of the publishing industry here in the States, is I need to get a hold of about 24 people. These would be VPs of circulation or of consumer marketing for these big, massive print media companies like Time Inc. and Time Warner and Bonnier and Condé Nast and the Wall Street Journal, Forbes. Anyway, although I make the list go on and on, it was a short list. I really needed to reach about 24 people. And so I put together a campaign. I didn't know what to call it, so I called it a contact campaign. And it consisted of an 8x10 print of a cartoon. Each one was personalized to each recipient. And it went with a letter saying, this is the device I just used to beat the controls for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit, and we should put this to the test for your titles. And, usually when I'm talking in front of a group, I'll ask the audience, well, what do you think I got for a response rate? And that's not really fair here. So I'll just go right to the conclusion. That produced 100% response rate. Not only that, so I got through to all of them, but also all of them became clients. So it was also 100% conversion. And that, you're right, that came from a campaign that I spent about $100 on.
So just to get really specific, you only need to get to 24 people.
Yeah,
very important people. 24 of them. You drew up a cartoon that was personalised to each of them.
Yep.
Can you remember? Was it just a funny cartoon that involved them?
Well, it was. Yeah, I remember exactly what it was. It was two people walking in the desert, and then there's one of those desert crawlers that we used to see in the movies, the guy that's crawling through the
yeah.
and he's probably thirsty, and the two guys were walking and pushing a cart that sells peanuts, which is probably not very helpful in a desert or to a desert crawler guy. But anyway, so there was a peanut stand, and you could see that in the footprints in the sand that they had met and crossed paths and interacted, and then they've now gone their separate ways. And so one of the peanut vendor was telling the other fellow, I got the idea when I read somewhere that Tim Reid could sell an igloo to an Eskimo, which is a saying here. I don't know if it's a saying there.
Yes.
But so each one, I dropped your name into the caption, but each person had their own name in the caption. And so that's the form of personalization that I'm talking about. It's just,
and you attach some kind of letter.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Yeah, but look at that. Here is a small business. I'm just a single freelancer, and I ended up pulling in some of the biggest companies in publishing from a contact marketing my first contact marketing campaign.
So what we need to do here, Stu, again, just to reiterate for those listening, this is not about being a great cartoonist and sending your art to people in order to get a reaction.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Clearly the idea is to create personalised campaigns, which you want to touch on. But if you do want to do cartoons or some kind of illustration to send to people and you can't draw like me, then go to Fiverr. Go to fiverr.com, find a cartoonist, and you can get that done without spending a whole lot of dough. You don't have to be a great artist. So the lesson here, Stu, is personalized campaigns. Is at the heart of contact marketing creating personalized campains?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, personalization is a factor, but I would say that it's really the point of it is we want the people on the receiving end of this to say, wow, pardon me, wow, I love the way Tim thinks. So, because if you send something to someone or offer, I mean, you're not sending anyone, I guess you're sending an invitation if you're going to have them on your podcast, but really we're talking about sending something that certainly gets their attention but does it in a clever and audacious way, but also in a very relevant way. And in a way that shows that you've done some research and you understand what they might need, or you at least have some sense of what you can offer that might be timely and relevant to whatever they're doing. It's not just, I mean, you wouldn't just be doing this to sell, I don't know, window washing services to the CEO of, I don't know, Xerox, because he's not going to respond.
Okay.
But if it's relevant,
I'm going to role play.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a new sponsor for this show next year. Okay.
Yep.
And an ideal sponsor would be I need to get through to the marketing director of a large telecommunications company or bank or insurance company. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones who want to get in front of small business owners. They're the ones with the budgets, and it would appear to me to be a good match. Now, where do I start in terms of contact marketing?
Well, I mean, I'm a little on the spot, and that's okay. I love that, actually. So thinking on the spot, here's what I would do. And you'll notice I'm not even talking about a cartoon, or I won't be. I would put together, I would get a microphone, and it might be a real one, or it might, it's probably just a real one. And I would have some custom packaging made up for your show. And I would send that microphone to the marketing director with a letter. It would be nice if it's handwritten. Those seem to do really, really well. But a letter to the marketing director saying, when you want to give your company a voice, where do you go? And then I would explain. I would introduce myself. I mean, you would be introducing yourself, and tell them about. Well, one of the wonderful things about your podcast, and it's unusual. It's really a great thing about it is that it shows up on air in the air, in Virgin Airlines. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's. I mean, I have a podcast that doesn't show up there, so that's quite unusual. And if I would be talking about the business. I don't know what the people do in a business, but I'm going to assume that the sponsor will want to be talking to other business owners, small business owners, really. Yep. So maybe it's a bank, maybe it's, I don't know.
Okay, so your big idea there is sending a mic with some custom packaging, a handwritten letter with a clever line that's all about giving your company a voice.
Yeah, because it's a visual metaphor for what you can do for them.
Yeah, got it. I got it.
I think that's what I would do.
Now that's all very good. Easy enough to get the person's name and get the person's address, thanks to LinkedIn and the internet generally. Mm-hmm. So that package arrives. But now I've got and I'm not going to assume that person's going to call me. I've given myself a pretty good shot that they're going to call me because I've sent them a compelling package and offer. But they're busy. They're not going to call me. So now how do I've still got to get. I've got to get to the EA, who I love. And I'm very grateful for,
of course.
But how do I do that?
Well, I want to add another element because if we're really when we're talking about the new model, the new contact marketing model. See, the previous one, we would just send that out and we'd follow up, and we would get whatever response rate we get, because you'd be sending more than one, I would imagine. We get. But the new model also includes a digital persistence track. And what we want to do there is we want to set it up so that the person we're reaching out to might be seeing our ads for a couple of weeks on wherever they go on the web. And it's really, we're talking about Google display network advertising and retargeting. Does that make sense?
I think what you're saying is I should be, prior to sending out that mic, somehow getting in front of these people through some Facebook or Instagram ads.
Well, really,
Google
those could work, but I'm thinking more likely it's through Google display. So that those ads then can show up on any of 2 million websites, including all the big news websites and so forth. So if what we want is to have ads showing up about your show. So we don't really care whether they respond to the ads. We just want the ads showing up. And what we want is when you then send the golden mic. I didn't say it was golden before, but maybe a golden mic. They get that package, and they put 2 and 2 together. They're thinking, oh my God, this is the guy. You know what? This is Tim Reid. This is the guy I see advertised all over the place. And so now I'm hearing from him. So I think that, and then you keep running those ads. So there's a constant reminder. Those ads could be changing as you go through the pre-contact, contact, and post-contact, and then sales cycle. You could be changing those ads around to remind them and keep them focused or on your value proposition and just the fact that you want to have them as sponsors. And and think about that. I don't want people not to follow up, but all of that top of mind awareness happens before you ever even make a call. Right. So that's the new model. And really, as part of the new model, I think that we need to, I mean, in the book, I said reset, I don't know, or set for the first time, but reset our baseline for response for contact marketing campaigns at a shocking 100% response rate. And I know that's blasphemy and heresy, but at least for marketers. But the point is, actually, people are getting response rates as high as 100%. In fact, some of them have gotten more than 100% response because people are so enamored with what they've gotten or how they were approached that they actually share it and pull other people into the campaign. And they generate response beyond those who are actually targeted.
It's pretty bold because your general response rate, when you talk to people, some people say if you get 3 to 5% response rate, which I think is completely ridiculous, but then you're doing okay. Aim for 20. You're saying set the base at 100%.
Yeah, I am because we do get 100% response rates occasionally. It doesn't happen very often, but we do get them. And actually, I was interviewing someone on my podcast, and it had a big effect on me. They were saying, we did something just kind of like what you're talking about with a display case for 3 baseballs, and we sent it over with 2 autographed baseballs from the Red Sox from Boston. But there was a third ball that was missing, and we said we'll bring that when we meet, which is known as a holdback device. I said, okay, that's kind of cool. And he said, you know what? We thought we projected that we would get an 18% response rate, and guess what we got? I said 18%. That's right. And I was thinking to myself, what if you had said we think we're going to get 100%? What would you have gotten? Because perhaps you would have pushed yourself and expected more, and actually made that happen. And again, it does happen.
Stu, I'm still a little bit unclear. So what you've got, we've got some branding activity, which is your Google display ads appearing in the weeks leading up to sending. Oh, did you get a text then?
My wife is saying hello. Are you talking about me again?
Just say hello to your wife and me, would you? Just a little mate from down under. Now, we've got the display stuff. That's the branding, the awareness. Hopefully, these marketing directors that I'm sending the golden mic to will have seen that in the lead up. I send them the package. They go, oh, that rings a bell. I think I've seen that podcast somewhere. But I'm still unclear. I'm not going to assume that these guys are going to call me because I've sent them a microphone. How do I get to the EA? How do I get past the EA to find out if he or she has received the mic? Surely that's the make or break moment.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to be forearmed with a little bit of knowledge of where they're going, what the CMO has maybe been saying or quoted as saying in the press. Perhaps you'll have gathered a little bit of a dossier so that you can speak relevantly about the things that he or she has said, where they want they want to go with the company and with the marketing of the company, and how you fit in. And by the way, I'm the guy who sent the microphone. Maybe I'm starting to think now. Maybe the microphone would be a gold microphone, but it's actually chocolate, so they can eat it. I don't know. Seems like they might even get that. Eat your words too. I don't know. There are some wonderful things that we could play with in the copy, but
and I guess following them up too on their Twitter or their Facebook or their LinkedIn, and I think in your book you talk about persistence, where there's a point where you just don't give up. I mean, you got to be like the dog hanging off the leg.
Yeah, you don't give up unless it makes sense for you to give up. But I mean, you don't give up.
As I said, you've got lots of case studies. I'd love you to share another case study from the book, maybe one that's more on the small side of business versus a large corporation trying to get a meeting with another large one. Which one comes to mind?
Well, there's one of my favorites is the story of Dan Waldschmidt, a well-known sales blogger. He writes the blog Edgy Conversations, and also, gosh, this guy's an amazing ultra athlete. He actually runs 100-mile races and wins. He's an amazing competitor. But the thing that he does for business actually is he's a turnaround specialist. So those guys have to reach the CEOs of companies that are in trouble, and there is no list of those people, and they're they might be, I don't know. I guess one would assume they're kind of hard to reach, but maybe not. But he has a really interesting method for breaking through to these people, for really targeting and breaking through to them. So what he does is every morning he combs the business news for stories of missed earnings estimates. And when he finds one, he has a beautiful sword made by the prop maker who made all of the swords for the movie Gladiator. I don't know if you saw that, but they're beautiful swords. They're worthy of being in a movie. Fortunately, the blades are not sharpened. That's an important thing. And the blade has the CEO's name engraved on it, along with an inscription: "If you're not all in, you're not in at all." And that gets packed into a wooden box, beautiful wooden box, felt lined, with a handwritten note. And that note says, "Dear Tim, business is war, and I noticed you lost a battle recently. I just wanted to let you know, if you ever need a few extra hands in battle, we've got your back." Now, I don't even think that goes in its letterhead. There's no logo. There's none of the usual branding items or elements.
Just a handwritten letter.
Just a handwritten note and a whole lot of audacity, because actually that sword costs him $1,000 every time he does this.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not a cheap idea.
No, it's not. It's not. Mind you, Dan is a single practitioner. He probably has a couple of assistants, but he's a single practitioner. But he is reaching out to companies, quite large companies, to help them turn the company around. And so,
well, I suppose the equation is, I mean, if you're going to spend $1,000 on a sword made by the props guy from Gladiator, you're going to know what your cost of a new client is worth. So,
yes,
if you can get across the line and it's worth, I don't know, $100,000 to you, then it's $1,000 well spent.
Well, in Dan's case, here's what happens: he's getting 100% response rate to that campaign so far, and when that doesn't mean that he sells to every one of the CEOs that he connects with, but he connects with every one of them, and his every time he gets an assignment, it's worth $1 million and up. So it's really quite worthwhile to him. And what's interesting is so this is an interesting sort of form of gift. It is a gift, but nobody's waiting to get a sword. Nobody's thinking, "Man, I wish I had a sword for my wall." But the thing is that this is, well, I guess it's really not quite a gift, because what it is a visual metaphor. It's personalized. Yes. He puts the name of the CEO on the blade of the sword, but otherwise it's not personalized in that the CEO, he's done a profile scrape and found out that the CEO is really, really interested in medieval times or war or swords. It doesn't matter, right? And so all that happens, it's a visual metaphor for the value that Dan will bring to you. And he knows you're in trouble. He knows you need the help, and he's willing to be a couple extra hands in battle and go to battle for you.
Stu, there's a big component here that a lot of people could fall over in terms of the contact marketing equation. Sending the mic, sending the sword, all that, it's a very clever idea. and you need the creativity to come up with that. But I would argue that's relatively easy, i.e., what can I send that's clever and is going to get noticed to someone I want to get a meeting with? Like, it's a relatively easy question to answer. What happens when that person calls you and says, that's awesome, I love that sword, how can you help me? You've got to have your sales pitch ready, don't you?
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, you don't just send these things out and then sort of tag someone and then, and then
what if they call?
And then crumble.
What if they call me? So what advice have you got there? I mean, it's sort of a separate equation, although like you said earlier, the whole premise of contact marketing is there is a meshing of marketing and sales, which is very unusual.
Yeah. Well, there is. And also, if you think about the few examples I've shared with you, let's say mine first. I wanted to create direct mail campaigns for big direct marketers. So I'm not looking for tiny ones. I'm looking for the biggest ones in the country. And when they use my creative work, well, at first I had to just say, well, it just worked here. I assume it's going to work in other places. But I ended up, I was actually nominated for membership in a couple of halls of fame, marketing halls of fame, for what I did. But I had to start somewhere, and that was, hey, I know that cartoons are the best read and remembered parts of magazines and newspapers based on readership surveys that have been done by magazines and newspapers for decades. And I've just proved it with the two test campaigns for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit. This is ripe for you to do something about this right now. So, I didn't get the meeting and then crumble. I went in and said, look, I was very purposeful about what my messaging was. And all of us need to do that. We need to know what it is we have to offer. We don't want to just go in and meet them.
Absolutely. Many fall down. It's like, some people create podcast episodes or blog posts, and it's great. They offer value, but like, what do you want people to do having read that blog or having listened to that episode? I mean, it's a fair and valid question. It's about having a strong call to action. Stu, I feel I'm repeating myself, but again, I like to get clear on things, and certainly on behalf of my audience, I do. So far, we've sent a chocolate golden microphone. We've sent a sword designed by.
It's a pretty cool one. I think that's a good one.
It's a pretty cool one. Yeah, I will shoot something like that. Swords. We've sent cartoons. You said there is more to contact marketing than just personalizing campaigns. What's the missing component that we haven't spoken about?
Well, I think there are a lot of ways to reach out to people, and we've spoken about things that you can send physically or things that you can offer that are conceptual, like media exposure when they're a guest on the podcast. But I think the thing that I keep going back to over and over again is we want people to be saying, man, I love the way you think. I love the way this person thinks. We've got to meet. So there are a lot of different ways to do that. And sometimes we're not going to get quite that reaction. But for example, in How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, my first book, I talked about using email in ways that help you stand out. And the way that you do that is not by sending candy, of course, through email, but you write to, if you're going to write to someone who's very, very important, very busy, write to them in just a dozen words or less. So that you really just get to the point and you respect their time. And
I love that one. In fact, I've seen, I saw a concept explained once, the 9-word email, which is it's basically a question. Are you still interested in sponsoring a business podcast, for example? And don't go into any more detail than that. And then they get a yes, and then you can kind of develop. Yeah, so like that. Yep, keep going.
Something like that. Yes, something gets to the point very quickly, so that they can respond. I mean, I wouldn't tease too much with it. I don't know. I'm not sure. The question, I hadn't thought about it. So it seems like the question could be a good idea, but I wouldn't want to tease them. I wouldn't want to cause them to use up extra time. And the other thing is that you could also then pay attention to the timing of when you send this email. And I've used this to reach, for example, Steve Forbes and Gary Vaynerchuk and Mark Benioff of Salesforce. And so if you pay attention to when it goes out, that actually also has a big effect. You could send it out. The two best times I think actually come from Mark Hunter, who suggested either sending it just before, let's say around 8 in the morning, something like that, 8 o'clock, sometime before they've woken up and they're. It seems like many CEOs, many of these high functioning people in business, they do something for the weekend, but they also check in first, and so that's what the Saturday morning messaging is for. And then before they delve into the next week, they're also spending a bit of time Sunday evening planning for the week ahead, and that's also a good time to send an email. But it's got to be really quick, and when they'll either not respond or they will respond. If they respond, they'll respond within a few seconds of you sending it. It's really pretty amazing, and that doesn't cost you anything. So we've talked about methods now that cost you nothing, all the way up to so far $1,000 a shot. But actually, that's not the record. The record is so far that I know of is $10,000 to reach one person. And then there are a few records that have come up in the new meeting. In the new book, Get the Meeting. The highest or ROI on a contact marketing campaign that I know of so far is 69,500,000%. It's crazy.
You can't just say that. You have to
I know it's a weird number.
9,000,000%.
Yeah. Should I explain?
Well, you're going to have to. I don't believe you.
Or is this when we say, if you want to know, go get the book?
I think I will anyway, mate. You have to explain that one. Give us the 2 minutes.
I'm going to give you. Yeah, I will. So a startup was producing a tongue cleaner called OraBrush, and they'd been around for a year. They were selling on YouTube videos, and they'd sold about $1 million worth of product that first year. And they decided the next thing they needed to do is get into Walmart. And again, I don't know if this is a reference that makes sense in Australia. Is Walmart known?
Yes.
Okay. So 6,800 stores. It's a big network. It's the biggest physical network of stores I think that exists in the world. And so they wanted to break into Walmart, and they went the usual route. They applied to the buying department, and that's probably a great way to be ignored. I couldn't say, but I would imagine that it's a clogged channel. So you want to avoid clogged channels whenever you can.
Yes.
So they decided, okay, let's run an ad on Facebook, a contact ad. What we want to do is get in touch with the buyers at Walmart, and particularly the dental care buyer at Walmart. So they ran an ad, and they target on Facebook, just a tiny $28 ad, and the ad showed their spokesman with the OraBrush, and it said Walmart employees have bad breath, but if you carry our product, they won't, something like that. And they ran the ad, and they targeted it to the zip code where the Bentonville, Arkansas headquarters are for Walmart, and they also targeted based on age range and education range. So they were trying to reach the workers, and particularly the executives at the Walmart headquarters. Well, within 2 days, Walmart called, but it was the communications department, not the buyer, and they were saying they were asking if they were the ones behind the ad. Well, yes, we are. Would you take that down immediately, please? Sure. Well, of course, we'll do that. And oh my God, was this run nationally? And they said, no, actually, it was run just to you. Well, really? How'd you do that? And that conversation led to, gee, you guys are actually pretty clever at digital marketing. Yeah, we are. We're pretty good at it. Well, you know what? I'm going to put you in touch with the dental buyer. The dental buyer gets in touch and says, okay, great. I love this. Can you support an order for 730,000 units, which is $1.5 million order? And they said, sure. And that order not only gave them $1 million shot in the arm, but it also asked the CEO, well, what happened to the valuation of the company then? Because you went from being a startup that sold $1 million worth of products on YouTube to being rolled out in all of the Walmart stores.
Brilliant.
What happened? What did that do to the valuation? And he said, well, I think that multiplied it by 10. We were worth, our sales were $1 million. I think we had a 2x multiplier going there. So we were worth $2 million before the sale. And then after the sale, they were worth $20 million. And and they had 1.5 million
So
more
the
orders.
lesson, Stu, is targeted Facebook ads to individual people. I like that.
Yeah.
Using video.
Yeah.
Using video, which is another form you talk about a lot in your book. But again, video is such a personalized thing. It's so easy. It's sort of got this high perceived value. It's got this low cost to the business. So I like that. Stu, one final point. You talk about, in fact, you dedicate a whole chapter in your most recent book to celebrities. You think we can learn a lot from celebrities when it comes to contact marketing?
Yeah. There's a movie, Hitch. Is that? I mean, and now
Yes.
by now it's kind of old,
Yep.
but is that well known?
You do keep asking about, is that available in Australia? I'm going to tell you, you're not going to believe this. We got electricity I'm going to say over 100 years ago.
No. But if I said, I'm just talking about brand names.
We've heard of Hitch.
They don't typically.
Yep.
I mean, they don't even extend across the country.
Yeah, true.
So I'm trying to be cognizant of that. But so the movie Hitch with Will Smith, a wonderful movie. It's a romantic comedy, and the thing is, he's a consultant, but romance consultant. He helps people get together. In fact, helps them get meetings. If you think about it.
Yes.
And he starts using there's a lot of really interesting uses of contact marketing in that film. And in fact, I think it's about 33 minutes into the film. There's a scene where Will's character wants to ask Eva Mendes's character out on a date. Her character is Sarah Milas. So he wants to ask her out on a date. And the way that he does that is he has a courier bring in a box to her at her office. She signs for it. She opens it up, and there's a walkie-talkie in there, and it's on. And he's waiting on the other end with his walkie-talkie for her to pick it up and say hello. And as soon as she did that, he says, "I want to ask you out, and I've got a very special thing I want to do on Saturday. Will you join me?" And if the answer is yes, then the courier had another box with a wetsuit. So here's step 2. Well, that's really, you know what? The thing is, when I send my cartoon pieces around, or when Dan Waldschmidt sends his swords and others, when they run their campaigns, they're never there to see them in action. So watching the movie Hitch actually gives you a chance to actually watch these things in action, and you can see the kinds of reactions that you want to be producing in your own contact campaigns. So
awesome.
That's a great one. There's another one though. When I talk about using Audacity, I think there's no better example than. I'm not going to ask if you know Chris Christopherson. But when Chris Christopherson wanted to connect with Johnny Cash, that obviously we're talking about years ago, but that's okay. These things hold up over time. And so when Chris was in the Army in Germany, he was flying helicopters for the Army, and he was thinking about what he was going to do when he got out of the Army. What would he do with the rest of his life? And what he really wanted to do was become a singer-songwriter and work with Johnny Cash, his hero. So to do that, he had to move to Nashville. So as soon as he's discharged, he moved to Nashville. And pretty quickly, he met through a friend. He got a backstage pass and met Johnny Cash at the Grand Ole Opry. And it made about as much of an impact as, I don't know, as stepping on an ant. In other words, none. And so, oh gosh, okay, well, let me see what else I can do. So he then found a way into the studio where Johnny recorded. He was working as a janitor in the building, and he would sneak his demo tapes to Johnny's wife and his guitarist, and nothing would happen. Nothing was happening with it. So finally, he decided, I've got to do something. And so he was still flying helicopters for the National Guard. So he made off with one of the helicopters one day and flew it over to Johnny's estate and landed on the front lawn and handed him a demo tape. And that did the trick. From that point on, Johnny thought of him differently. But, you got to think, when I say, you want people to be saying, "I love the way you think," I'm sure that's what Johnny was thinking about Chris.
Yeah, it's a great question to ask. How do you want people to think about you? Stu, it's a great concept, the whole contact marketing thing. I love it. You've packaged it up beautifully. I think the book's fantastic. It's called Get the Meeting. Where can people find it? You're not going to believe it. We have e-commerce stores down in Australia, Stu. Powered by electricity. It's a very, very forward company down under. I know. We'll get you down here one day. But where can people buy your book?
So I will say it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble,
Yes.
Books, which is bnn.com, Books A Million, Indigo. You can buy
And
it.
I imagine we have a bookstore down here called booktopia.com.au, so it'll be available there as well. Well worth the read. Stu, thanks so much, mate, for sharing how we can get past the Dobermans and get that meeting. That could change our business and or personal lives. Clearly it changed yours. And again, say hello to your wife. Stu Heinecke, thanks for joining us on the Small Business Big Marketing Show.
Thank you, because it's a big honor.
Well, there you go, team. Wall Street Journal cartoonist and father of contact marketing, Stu Heinecke. If you managed to get the meeting of a lifetime after listening to that chat with Stu, please let me know. tim@timreid.com.au or hit me up on Twitter @TimboReid. I may well get you on the show to tell your own story. Now, here's what grabbed my attention from that chat. Attention grabber number 1. Get creative with personalisation. I love that. You know, we live in a world where personalisation is a whole lot easier these days, whether it be in the physical form or you create a personalised video or piece of audio for someone. It's certainly an awesome way to get attention. Attention grabber number 2. Raise your expectations around your response rate. I think it's really interesting, that mindset that Stu mentioned, which is to set a benchmark of 100% response rate. That's incredible. You know, like I said, you know, sometimes 5-10% is what we're looking for. Why not look? If you did 5-10%, that's 90% of people who aren't responding. So set it 100% and maybe the energy that you put into that will shift. Another mindset shift he mentioned was be grateful for executive assistants. I like that as well. A lot of marketing is in the mind. Attention grabber number 3. Create content and invite influencers on as guests. This is another great way of getting to key decision makers. I found that in podcasting. So go on, create that YouTube channel, create that podcast, create that awesome ebook or blog, and get people on as guests or contributors who you would really love to meet and create a network with. Well, that's what grabbed my attention. Whatever grabbed yours, be sure to block out some time in that diary of yours and implement it.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Oh, yes, indeedly doodly. It's time to reward another motivated listener for taking some serious marketing action. And today's winner is Leo Miller of the Food Van down in Tasmania, Shred Burgers and Shimmy Shakes. What a great name. I want one of them already. And Leo says, hey, Timbo, I've really enjoyed your podcasts. I've really? Does that mean he's no longer enjoying them? I'll take it as he still listens. I've really enjoyed your podcasts and get plenty of helpful tips, ideas, advice, and motivation from them. What have I implemented? The main thing was your capstone brief in episode 425. I adjusted all my introductory emails and applications to this and find that I get into almost everything I apply for. Oh, I like that. That was a good episode. I enjoyed putting that together. Episode 425. I've also added a few videos to my social media. Not enough, but it's a start, he says. And I just heard episode 470 and have started using Canva to make my new menus. I also found episode 467 with Michael Gerber from the E-Myth brilliant and reassuring as I try to implement systems into my business so that it can run without me, and it often does now. Awesome. But above all, your show keeps me motivated and thinking big. We're actually on track to grow another 40+% this financial year. Love your work, Timbo. Leo Miller from, what was the business? Shred Burgers and Shimmy Shakes. And he calls himself the main guy. I like a fun job title. I call myself the CEO, Chief Everything Officer. Hey, Leo, thank you for sending me that email and how the ideas from this show are impacting on your business. As a result, you win a range of non-alcoholic spirits from Liars worth $500, more than that actually. Some boxing gloves from Fitness Enhancement, they're worth $40. Access to Jeff Anderson's video marketing course, that's $197. A $50 Snackwise sample box, a $50 Sendall voucher, a $100 voucher to buy some tradies undies for you or your partner. You get some promotion on this show. That's got to be worth a bit. And a backlink in the show notes. Leo, you are a winner. Everyone else, if you haven't emailed me, do so. tim@timreid.com.au. Tell me one idea you've implemented from this show that has impacted on your business in a positive way. If I read it out on air, you win. Before we wrap things up, just a reminder that there's hundreds more episodes full of ideas to grow your business over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. If you're getting value from listening, then don't keep it a secret. Be sure to let other business owners know about it. Next week, we catch up with an ex-school teacher turned product development expert. This podcast was presented by me, Timbo Reid, produced by Matt Dwyer. Until next week, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, get out there and take action.